In today's video, we're going to be taking another cheeky look at Bitcoin because, let's face it, MicroStrategy must be crazy. As we get into this video, guys, if you find it useful and informative, do go ahead and hit that like button. We both really do appreciate it. And of course, if you happen to be new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with those new cryptocurrencies, the hidden gems, the technical analysis, and news, then do go ahead and subscribe. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything we do here. It is free, you'll stay well informed, so why not? And Chris, before we jump on down to the desktop and start taking a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin, these institutions, have a look at some charts. Is there anything else that you want to add?
There's loads, but like, yeah, I just feel like at the moment I'm just getting into the comments too much. Let's just move on from my thoughts and opinions. This one's definitely for some of the individuals, though, isn't it?
It really is. Guys, if you want to make Chris's day, comment down below. Right, let's jump on into it. Let's get right into Bitcoin.
Let's do it.
Okay, guys, we're going to start here and we're going to go on a bit of a journey through Bitcoin. So we have MicroStrategy's total Bitcoin holding basically reaching 100,000 coins, okay, and this is as institutional investors buy the dip. Ultimately, we'll get into what the charts are looking like, what's going on there, but ultimately, MicroStrategy have backed the truck up. So let's take a look at what's going on. The massive fall in Bitcoin price has sparked fear amongst many of the newbies in the space who just generally don't know what's going on, and has forced a mass sell-off for multiple different reasons, but ultimately these are people who are susceptible to fear, clearly. And institutions are buying the dip, and as they accumulate more and more Bitcoin. The move is led by MicroStrategy, who announced earlier this week that they have spent roughly $489 million on 13,000 units of Bitcoin. This takes the total purchases up to 105,000 Bitcoin, guys. That is a absolutely astonishing amount of Bitcoin. And anyone who was selling, basically you're selling it to MicroStrategy. They must be crazy, right? Because we read the comments, as Chris was alluding to earlier, and well, we're going to a bear market, right? Who would be buying right now?
I kind of feel some of those novices have become TA experts in the comments. It's remarkable.
It really does, but it does feel that way, that it's a lot of those newbies in the space do appear to be experts when it comes to these things. But let's get into what's going on, right? So ultimately, according to the company, the average purchase price for its over 100,000 Bitcoin holdings is $26,000 per unit. So that's significantly lower than the current price. So right now, they dollar cost average their position because, you know, it's the way to do it these days. Ultimately, they've got themselves a pretty good deal. Basically, really experienced into trading here, and they've included fees and expenses as well. So as of June 21st, the Virginia-based enterprise software company holding value of about $3 billion in Bitcoin there. So the company recently engaged in a program to raise $1 billion by selling additional stocks to purchase more Bitcoin. So they absolutely, I mean, 𝗕𝗄𝗪𝗧 here must be off his rocker, at least according to the comment section across many YouTube channels today. So here's a bit of a quote, right? So we rotated our shareholder base and transformed ourselves into a company that is able to sell enterprise software and to acquire and hold Bitcoin. And we've done it successfully with leverage. So really interesting stuff going on. So the company's shares have also staged a surprising bull run with a 423% surge since basically the Bitcoin buy was announced on the 10th of August. So really interesting stuff. Now let's get into what institutional investors have planned for Bitcoin. So investment firm Van Eyck has also filed a new draft prospectus with the SEC for Bitcoin futures and mutual funds. So lots going on around that. The Bitcoin Strategy Fund will invest in Bitcoin future contracts. Not just that, they will venture into pooled investment vehicles and exchange traded products. Through the fund will not, although the fund will not directly invest in Bitcoin. So the fund's investment into Bitcoin futures would be done through a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands, obviously. I mean, yeah, institutions, you've got to love them. So anyway, I'm not going to go into too much more on there, but basically you get the idea, you get the gist here on, ultimately what is going on, right? Now, this does lead us on to that other piece of fear that we're hearing a lot about. And that obviously is all to do with mining and
Oh,
how
it's been on the BBC, Nick. It's been on the BBC.
it has been on the BBC. You're right, and we know that those guys don't lie. So anyway,
They never lie, as long as they get their license fee.
absolutely. So here we obviously have what's the most logical thing that a company over in China is going to do when the Chinese government try to intensify those crackdowns. Well, they're just going to ship up and move, aren't they? Because, you know, the same reason that Ripple were considering leaving the US when the SEC started their attack. It's the same reason. You don't stay in a country that's not friendly regulatory-wise to your business. You just move elsewhere. And here we have bit mining shipping equipment to Kazakhstan as China intensifies the crackdown. This is a short-term pain from a bit mining point of view, but actually long-term, it makes the most amount of sense. We spoke about this earlier in the video that we did this morning around what the most likely outcome is and why ultimately the Bitcoin mining issue in China isn't really all that much of a concern, because all you are seeing here is actually decentralization happen. We're having more mining happening over in the US, we're having a lot more going on in Norway, and we can see here that bit mining ships equipment over to Kazakhstan to continue its operation there. And again, it's basically just spreading the mining out of China. So actually this is really positive long-term for Bitcoin as a whole, although there is going to be a bit of a short-term pain whilst they sell the Bitcoin to potentially fund the moves out of China. So again, it's always worth understanding what's going on and what the most logical steps are moving further forward. Here we can obviously go into this. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but you get the idea just from the headline. And what I'm kind of briefly talking about here is ultimately how these mining companies that were based in China, they're not going to stay in China. They are just going to be moving their operations overseas and into other areas that are more regulatory friendly towards their business. Makes sense. But let's get into a couple of additional things. Now, we actually tweeted this piece out earlier today. As we got the bounce from, I think it was like 28,000, something like that, actually started really thinking about the Wyckoff accumulation and what that looks like. And actually, it seems to be that we're following the pattern quite nicely here. Again, the targets on our yellow lines here on this chart, they're not accurate by any stretch of the imagination. She just drew in the formation that we're kind of expecting to see here when it comes to a Wyckoff accumulation, based on everything that we've seen happen so far and where we actually had this test go lower than this one over here, this secondary test. It does tell me that actually we could be seeing this Wyckoff accumulation in motion. So again, we're looking to see if this actually rises up. Again, these levels may adjust over time, but if this pattern starts to really form in the next kind of little while, we'll be able to clearly see what's going on with Bitcoin and be able to preempt some of the spikes upwards and down as well. Ultimately, a part of this is about those retail investors being shaken out of the market, with institutions basically slowly and steadily purchasing up that Bitcoin. So as we're talking about MicroStrategy now reaching over 100,000 Bitcoins, and the fact that they've been buying the dip and they've been backing up the truck, we can see that they've been doing this gradually over a period of time, not to spike the price up too fast or too hard, but to deliberately keep the price low. And again, while shaking out those retail investors with loads of nonsense and stuff in the space. So it's again really important that we understand what's going on here. We'll have to see that if this pattern does continue, we'll be able to take advantage of it as retail investors, and we'll know what is likely to come. Now, ultimately, me and Chris, we're not financial advisors. We like to purchase coins and hodl them for the longevity. We know where things are likely to go moving further forward. We've spoken quite a bit about Elliott theory, and we're expecting wave 5 to take this thing up to $176,000. We had plan B from our video this morning, who was talking about the worst case scenario being $135,000. Clearly, there were some people in the comments who just didn't watch the entire video to know that the $135,000 prediction, it wasn't us that was saying that. That was plan B. And again, we had Benjamin Cohen as well, talking about how he is expecting $100,000 as well, right? So ultimately, we're seeing what our expectations of wave 5 potentially peaking up there towards $176,000. Plan B saying the worst case scenario would be about $135,000. You've got Benjamin Cohen talking about $100,000. And, ultimately, there's people then who do not have any technical experience calling out $20,000. And again, I can't see where that technical information comes from to be able to piece that together. But right now, what I do have in front of me is the chart that's looking very much like a Wyckoff accumulation. And again, we're going to watch this one and see if it plays out. And if it does go this way, then at least we'll have a good understanding as to what is likely to happen moving further forward here with Bitcoin. Now, ultimately, a Wyckoff accumulation on a most kind of standard or regulatory method of this would be about 4 to 6 weeks. You'd see this kind of play out within that kind of time period. With the Bitcoin here, however, it could be extended beyond that. There can be examples where a Wyckoff accumulation has lasted 6 months, even a year. So we'll have to see if this accumulation period is short-lived or has to last longer. And this is something that I guess Benjamin Cohen kind of touched on briefly, talking about how he sees this kind of accumulation that you're seeing right now, potentially meaning that Bitcoin's accumulation period could actually last, or this correction period could last quite a while, that we'd see an extended bull run. And again, I think Plan B is still expecting something to have happened significant-wise by December of 2021. Okay, so we'll have to see what the time frames are looking like with this kind of accumulation period. And briefly kind of just drew these out with rough kind of expectations from my point of view. This would kind of say that actually the accumulation period should come to an end by September, so a few months down the line from where we are now. But again, we'll be riding this one out to see how it plays out. Now, obviously, in this particular method, we would see lots of areas of dollar cost averaging positions. You would see people calling all sorts of random news as the price is moving up. And when it gets to the top, there'll be some really good news articles probably before we get a correction to the downside immediately afterwards. And then you'll start seeing it really look like it's tumbling back down. You'll have that fear kind of eating back in. And again, you'll get a spike to the upside, a bounce to the upside. So stuff really goes on in this phase B section of this accumulation period. So again, be very cautious over things that you're hearing and seeing, specifically from many different influences in the space. It's important that you really do take a diverse look at things and don't just jump on a bandwagon and think it's going to a specific number. Ultimately, this is manipulation, and you're being made to feel a very specific way at key points in Bitcoin's life cycle here. So worth just pointing out, worth kind of keeping an eye on what is going on here on the daily chart. Again, if you take this down probably one level to an 8-hour chart or a 12-hour chart, you'll probably see it a little bit clearer, and you'll get probably tighter timelines than I've just drawn up here roughly on the daily chart. But it's worth just paying attention to what is potentially going on here with Bitcoin over the next little while here. Obviously, we had the bounce, which was kind of expected because you cannot potentially go down all that low into an oversold status. It was obvious that it wasn't going to go down to something like 24K. Not in one foul swoop, you're going to bounce to the upside. So really going to see, it's going to be a key moment now for Bitcoin to see how it reacts. It has found a little bit of resistance at about 33K. So we'll see what happens here. Does it push a little bit higher up? And do I need to adjust my targets accordingly? But ultimately, it's worth paying attention to the Wyckoff accumulation and see how that one kind of plays out. Now, Chris, is there anything else that you kind of want to add or talk through regarding this kind of brief kind of update on Bitcoin this evening?
Yeah, just lots of nervous traders out there. I know there's quite a few people that trade regularly, and they're just not trading at the minute because trying to figure out what the market's next move is. With that said, today I have been in the market because I mean it seemed like the right thing to be doing as I dollar cost average in. So I will be adding another 159,001 to the pool, Nick.
Fantastic.
I got in just before the bounce, which was remarkable. Really happy with that. I also purchased some ADA, so that's going in our other pool. I bought some 𝗕𝗘𝗪, AGIX, BNB and 𝗕𝗂𝗪, and I'm still waiting for my slot for World Mobile. So those are some of the purchases that I made today, one of which I'm not going to talk about just yet. Hopefully by the end of the week I will announce the other project that we're starting to invest in. Really like it. Looks good. Just a couple more dots to dot and T's to cross, and then we'll start talking about that one. But overall, really happy with what I managed to pick up today. And like I say, sometimes you it's how you look at the market, right? These are opportunities. We've talked about bear market as the point in time in which the money is made. If you had purchased last year, and sold at the top for VeChain, you're talking like 6,000 odd %. This is where the real money is made. So if you feel like it's a bear market, start filling your boots, because that's where the money is made. The money isn't made when you're in a bull market, right? So it's how you look at it. I still don't think that we're in a bear market, maybe a phase, which is a bear phase. But this is how I look at it and how I articulate it. A lot of the time when I look at the comments, I think we're actually singing off the same hymn sheet. We're just articulating it in slightly different ways. And people are maybe misunderstanding the terminology in the way that I'm articulating it. We're not saying that next week Bitcoin's going to be $100,000, right? Like, that we would will that to happen, but that isn't what we're saying, right? We're saying that it's an extended bull run, and that come the end of the year, there's going to be some very happy people, as long as they didn't sell and succumb to the fear that's out in the space. And the market is volatile. We've said this time and time again. We said to expect this when we were coming into 2021, you know, that expect the swings. You know, it's volatile. It's a new asset class, right? It's a small market with not a lot of money. I mean, we started talking about crypto on YouTube when it was less than 300 billion in circulation for the whole market. And, you know, we're only at what, a couple of trillion now, Nick? I'm not sure what it is these days.
We're not at 2 trillion anymore. We
Not a
were
trillion,
we were
no.
there. I think that the current market at the point of recording this video is 1.3 trillion. So we've added over $1 trillion to the market capitalization since we started YouTube in October. So a significant amount of money has flown in. And guys, you know, if it was a bear market, it would have potentially fallen down a little bit quicker than you've seen right now. And I don't think Bitcoin would be in this consolidation that you're seeing right now either. It would have actually continued that downward spiral much sooner. So
there is something else that I want to mention, just because the comments, you know, talking about channels, you know, they sold a month ago. I haven't sold any crypto. I just want to be really clear. All I've done is accumulate. And when I do sell, I mean, we've already put member videos up at the points in which we're going to be selling on certain projects, and those points haven't been met yet. So we haven't sold. We're all about, when we make a purchase, we already know what our exit strategy is going to be, right? And if those points aren't hit, then it hasn't met our goals and, you know, our aspirations. The only project that we have sold was Reef, and that was a calculated move into Anchor, and Anchor is still more valuable than Reef.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, guys, if you're buying a cryptocurrency and you haven't thought about your exit strategy, you're not quite doing it right. You've got to have your exit strategy before you even buy a cryptocurrency, and you need to know exactly what your exit strategies are for each individual cryptocurrency that you own. This way, you're not going to act emotionally about anything, and when those price points do actually come in, you really have the strategy there to act upon it. Sometimes you can even be preempting and get everything scheduled, ready to go. But ultimately, guys, we haven't sold anything. As Chris was saying, the only one was Reef, where we switched it out, put it into Anchor on a calculative move to basically increase our portfolio and the position of our investment. Other than that, nothing else has actually left the portfolio, and it's been doing okay. Obviously, you know, this is just a dollar cost average position, and we continue to accumulate rather than sell. We're waiting for either you know, fantastic numbers in this particular bull run, and even if our exit strategies are not met during this bull run, we'll be really looking forward to the 2025 with even better positions in these cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you know, when we exited Reef, we told you an hour or two after we did. Absolutely. Just so we're clear, right? Like, honesty and integrity, you know, for us two is right up there at the top of the list of things of priority to us, right? So, you know, I just want, you know, I see the comments. I'm a true believer in, if you read something enough or you're told something enough, it then becomes the gospel truth. So I need to clear this stuff up, because otherwise, you know, my belief system is that people will start to believe some of these ridiculous comments.
And Chris is too kind. I would have just binned everyone off who, you know, is being a bit negative, and you wouldn't be able to comment anymore.
I'm all about freedom of speech, right? And everybody's entitled to their opinion. So I'm not going to bin people off. People can express how they feel. I just think that, you know, and I'm not just talking from a cheeky crypto perspective, because I see a lot of other YouTubers writing stuff as well. Some of the stuff's just unfounded, and just complete BS. And to be honest, you should think about what you're writing before you write it.
Yeah, there'll be consequences to it for sure. Nothing goes forgotten. So anyway, with that said, done and out of the way, we hope everyone has a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Take care.